are 7 ways to have a healthier diet, giving you a healthier brain, allowing you to battle your psychosis. Yeah! What's happening, leprechauns? Welcome to How to Battle Psychosis episode 9. In this video we're going to be answering questions such as, should we eat meat? And what do we eat? And what do we not eat? Jumping straight into with number 1. Eat less sugars and less sweeteners. You might be thinking, where's the fun in that? Sugar is great. Look at all these desserts. Chocolate fudge pudding, sticky toffee pudding, pudding. All that's doing is putting the fat on you. Yeah! That's why it's bad for you and for your brain. Let's have a look at what Dr. Daniel Amen has got to say about why you should not eat sugar.
So we've actually scanned brains on sugar. Sugar is just bad for you. Why? It's addictive. It's actually in some studies more addictive than cocaine. It makes you fat. It's pro-inflammatory. It can lower your thoughtfulness or how smart you are, and it delays healing. They actually did a study on rats where they gave rats a head injury, and one group of rats, they gave their typical healthy food, and they recovered in like 3 weeks. The other group, they gave the rats their healthy food plus fructose or fruit sugar. 3 weeks later, they were still confused.
Basically, sugar, what it does is, for one, it speeds up your heartbeat. And what that does is it increases your insulin levels. And this is the main reason why sugar is the main cause for type 2 diabetes. To completely remove sugar from your diet, that might be a bit excessive. You could do it, and that would be super healthy. However, the likelihood of you doing that is slim. I do not have the willpower to completely cut out sugar. Why? Because I love it. Some of it is so good. And if someone was going to make me a cake, a bit like this cake my good friend made me at the farm. She didn't make it for me, she made it for the whole farm. But she's such a beautiful lady. Thank you, Eileen. Then I'm not going to say no to a cake that's homemade and right in front of me. You know what I mean? That's why I like to keep my sugar levels to a minimal limit. How I do that is by doing it maybe once or twice a day. Number 2 then is to eat 7 or more fruit or vegetables a day. The reason for this is because it's recommended by who? Who? The World Health Organization. That's who. And yeah, the reason for this is because fruit and veg are filled with nutrition and fiber. And fiber is good for your poo. Number 3 then, eat fruit and vegetables that are in season. The reason for this being, well, I'll let a doctor explain this to you. Let's have a listen.
Treat the food with medicines, like putting pesticides on foods, for example. You might make it look a little bit nicer, but in fact, I always like to talk about this example. I used to be a...
For you, the more medicine is in the food.
Well, and when you treat the food with medicines, like putting pesticides on foods, for example, you might make it look a little bit nicer, but in fact, I always like to talk about this example. I used to be a skeptic about organic foods. And the reason is because there was so much marketing on there, and telling me to have less something bad doesn't attract me. I want to know, I want a different reason. And so I started talking to horticulturalists, and they told me something really important. They said, that a plant like a strawberry or a coffee bean, when they're existing in the wild, and the pests, the little bugs, insect, nibble at their leaves and stems.
Yeah, they produce more chemicals.
They produce more chemicals because they view the little nibbles as an injury. So in response, as a wound healing response, they create more ellagic acid in a strawberry or more chlorogenic acid in the coffee bean. Yeah. And sure enough, when you actually put pesticides on a strawberry or a coffee, which is conventionally grown, you wind up, they don't need to make more of those chemicals. And so what you wind up having is something that looks like a coffee bean and something that looks like a strawberry, but it's actually relatively deficient in what Mother Nature would have otherwise served up that's actually good for our body.
Whenever you walk into a supermarket these days, you've got an abundance of everything and anything. You can pick almost any fruit or vegetable you want. Even in Ireland, where we are not a hot country, we've got a choice between bananas, mangoes, and pineapples. Which is bananas, whenever you think about it. See what I did there? which is pineapples whenever you think about it, which is mangoes whenever you think about it, which is not funny whenever you think about it. An example of communities that eat fruit and vegetables that are in season are people who live in the longest living countries. These places include Sardinia and Japan. The reason they live so long is supposedly due to three things. Number one being community. Number two being they eat and grow fruit and vegetables that are in season. And number three being they eat organic. And that leads us to our next point. Number 4, eat organic. Here are a list of the 140 plus chemicals that Irish farmers use. Here are some reports of what farmers are saying the effects of using chemicals has done to them.
The widow of a Cambria farmer is suing agrochemical giant Monsanto, alleging the company's Roundup herbicide caused her husband's cancer and later his death. Tell us a little bit more about how long this woman's husband had been using Roundup.
Well, Dan, Terry McCall told me that her husband, Jack, had been using the Roundup for nearly 30 years on their farm. Now, he was under the impression the whole time that Roundup was safe. Jack McCall died from complications of his cancer just a few months ago in December. And now Terry wants to hold the company responsible for his death.
Look at the names of these chemicals. Can you even pronounce that? Do you want that in your body? Obviously you don't. It's so unhealthy for us. I understand. Getting everything organic can be really expensive. Here's some way around this. Number 1, you can do what I do. I volunteer on an organic farm. And this organic farm is so kind to give me some organic produce in return for my work. Thank you, I love you. The second option then is you can grow it yourself. If you have a bit of grass, you can grow something in your garden. Just start with one thing. Maybe that will be a berry tree if you're in Ireland. Otherwise, dig up a bit of ground and plant some potatoes. The easiest vegetable that you can grow in Ireland. And the third option then is to not get things that are unhealthy for you. So do not buy any crisps or chips, whatever you Yanks say, and instead put that money towards getting your organic tomatoes. Number 5, remove vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are supposed to be really bad for your heart, mainly because of the high amount of omega-6s. So basically, your omega-6s and your omega-3s, they're kind of like weights. They need to be balanced. And in vegetable oils, it's got a really high amount of omega-6s. So what you can do to counterbalance this is by removing your canola oil, your sunflower oil, your rapeseed oil, remove all that, and instead what you can do is increase your organic coconut oil and your olive oil. They're good for you. Number 6 then, eat fermented foods. Here's a clip about 2 doctors from Ireland talking about psychobiotics, which to summarise is the relationship between your gut health and your brain health.
And we've done a study now that we're still ongoing where we've taken people who are stress sensitive and have bad diets, a lot of our student population, for example, and we've put them on what we've coined as a psychobiotic diet. So it's a diet that's really rich in fermented foods like kefir and kombucha and sauerkraut and yogurt and high in fiber. We've really ramped up the fiber intake. And we just put them on this for a month. Like 1 month, so and we're already seeing really good changes in terms of how they manage stress and on their overall mood.
So they are talking about fermented foods and how, once again, these countries where they've got the longest living people, they eat fermented foods. You know, if you want to live a healthy life, you want to copy what the healthy people are doing. And if you're able to live until 100 plus, then you're probably doing something right. Fermented foods. Be careful whenever you're making these fermented foods, however. One thing you have to do is you have to use organic produce. The reason for this is whatever the fermentation is happening, what is happening is basically all the insides of this vegetable is being released. And if you have a load of chemicals inside of this vegetable, then, you know, all these chemicals are going to come out during the fermentation. And so that's why it's important to have organic produce for this. They're really easy to make though. They're really beneficial for your health. And you can store them for ages. You can have them over the winter. They're great. Number 7 then. Eat. Do you eat meat? Should we eat meat? The answer to this is it's up to you. What I'm going to do here is though I'm going to lay out 2 options for you. The first one is the path for those that do not eat meat. The second one is the path for those who do eat meat, okay? And then we're going to link them together. If you do not eat meat, there are 3 things that you want to make certain of you get within your diet. First of all, you want to make sure you get enough omega-3s. Second of all, you want to make sure you get enough vitamin B12. And third of all, you want to make sure you get enough iron. Now, these 3 things, you might actually still need to get these if you are a meat eater, surprisingly. So let's start off with the omega-3s. Like I said earlier about the olive oil, there's omega-3s in that. But where the good omega-3s come from is ideally oily fish or seaweed. Second of all, B12. Where you can get B12 from is nutritional yeast. Or else you can get it from eating soil, surprisingly. Charles Duhigg, the guy who is famous for the no-dig principle, what he does now to get enough soil into his body is whenever he's picking his carrots, he will simply just wipe it off his trousers or his top and then eat it like that. He won't actually wash it properly, just so he gets enough soil, enough B12 into him. And third of all, iron. There is a lot of iron in the likes of spinach. However, I have heard some research about how you're not able to get the iron out of spinach if you do not eat certain things. Now, I don't know too much about this one, but I'm going to show a video from a doctor,
Eric Berg,
and he will tell you about what is best for you to up your iron intake.
Plant sources of iron don't absorb as well. They're not bioavailable like heme iron, okay? So there is something you could do to increase the absorption rate, and that would be vitamin C, okay? But not synthetic vitamin C. I would get it from lemons, not lemon juice, but actual lemons that you would have to cut open and squeeze, okay? Or berries, you could do berries, like blackberry and raspberry would be the best source of vitamin C, or bell peppers. So when you're consuming a vegan source of iron, okay, just make sure you add some vitamin C to spike the absorption. So when you're getting your iron from vegetables or legumes or nuts or seeds, make sure at the same time you consume the lemons, the berries, the bell peppers, foods that are high in vitamin C to increase absorption.
Organ meats have way more nutrition than vegetables or even sprouted vegetables, even sprouted cruciferous vegetables. So organ meats have the most nutrition of any food that you can eat. Always have grass-fed organ meats from maybe the farmer's market, something that you know is really, really healthy. Never consume just regular organ meats that you would get at the grocery store unless it's grass-fed, simply because of the amount of toxic waste that can accumulate, especially in the liver, okay?
And I'll be honest with you, leprechauns, whenever I was working on a farm in Portugal, I ate what the farm gave me. And there I ate mainly plant-based, organic, locally sourced food and organs. And honestly, I've never felt healthier in my life. There is loads of evidence to suggest that organic meat, like such as cows that are grass-fed, is actually really beneficial for the environment as well. And if they are organic, they more than likely live a very happy life. I only buy meat from one guy in Ireland who is an organic farmer, and he treats his cows so well that he literally gives them all at least one massage a year. Now that is treating cows better than they would be in the wild, because in the wild they wouldn't survive because there's not enough forests. That's why I eat organic meat, for the environment and for my health. Because if you really want to help the environment, your health comes first. You're not going to be able to help the environment if you are not healthy. Also, those 3 things I said about vegetarians and vegans, the omega-3s, the B12, and the iron, if you're taking a supplement, a multivitamin for example, please be careful about what you buy, because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the industry of the multivitamins is corrupt. I personally don't take any multivitamin because I try to get it all from the natural source, food. So there you go, leprechauns. 7 ways to have a healthier diet, to give yourself a healthier brain, a happier life, and to battle your psychosis. Now here's a question for you, leprechauns. What kind of diets have you experimented with? Thank you so much for listening, leprechauns. Maybe you will like this video. Yeah, give that one a watch. Speak soon, all the best, good luck, goodbye, bye 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 bye.